everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today on this day, I have the pleasure of sitting down with a gentleman by the name of Ethan Poetic. He's an author, speaker, and mental health advocate with an inspirational story that I can't wait to have him share with us. But first and foremost, as I always do, I take a quick moment to pause and say thank you to you, sir, for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once you give it, you can't get it back. So I truly appreciate you making time in your day to talk to me. And with that, sir, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be on the show and make an impact.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, as I was roaming around your website and your socials preparing for today's show, I was really impressed with your life story. It's so inspirational. So, as we get started, I was wondering if I could trouble you to kind of share with us some of your journey along the way.
Growing up in a single parent household where it was a struggle between depending on the government for food stamps, Section 8. I remember my mom used to receive the WIC, and it's also receiving the child support payments from different men. And then there was a transition period moving from Postville to Lancaster in the middle of my eighth grade year out of nowhere where I didn't have much of a say. And then I also talked about in my journey where I wasn't able to do sports the last 3 years of high school. But moving forward, here I am present, as you said, author, keynote speaker, mental health advocate, involved with the community engagement, community events, and the best is yet to come.
That's right. That's right. Now, I read somewhere you were talking about you had survivor's remorse. How did that come about?
I was interviewed last year by this newspaper called the Southeast Times. The writer and editor, his name is Marquise Lumpton. And, I was happy to do the interview with him and everything. Then when it got made the front page of his newspaper, I picked it up, sold more books at the Southern Market where we met at. He bought a book off me, and we took pictures and everything, cross branding. And then when I framed the story inside of Michael's frame and read the whole thing, I'm like, cool. And then I noticed something seemed cool with me for a second. And I read the keyword survivor's remorse. I'm like, bing. That's when the light bulb went off in my mind about why I used to go through these waves of emotions when my anniversary would come up for a certain event that happens. And, it took me some time to realize, like, if I would have known that phrase much sooner in life,
Mhm.
I would have been much further along. But I realized I can relate to those who lost a child, a grandchild, an aunt, an uncle, their loved one. People in the military might lose a buddy.
Mm.
It's that survivor's remorse of sometimes some people feel guilty of being alive or living their life without the other person. And that's sometimes the journey of a person who becomes a widow. And I just started looking at things differently. Like, whoa, I can relate to all these people. Now I add another layer to my story.
Um, I like that. Good. Now you decided to self-publish your book, and that's no easy task. It's very difficult to get a book out there into this world for people to read. Why did you choose to self-publish it?
Long story short, this Greek family encouraged me to write a book in the spring semester of 2020 in the midst of COVID. I just passed on my classes. And then a key to the man's heart to his stomach, and they kept feeding me lobster, some champagne, scallops. It was so much food to go around, I couldn't say no. Eventually, I said yes. As soon as I got started with writing, I got contacted by publishers, companies, and they were interested in me all of a sudden. And then next thing I know, it became a journey of the contract seemed good, but the problem was if I would have signed with them, they would have turned my story into a movie and a soundtrack. and they get the majority of the money and the rights, and I can't do that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you look at the movie Precious. That movie is based on a book. You look at the Pursuit of Happiness. That movie is produced also a book. And you also relate. Then my story relates to the homeless, the Harvard story. Then there's the Blind Side story. And what happens is these publisher companies buy the author their rights for a fraction of upfront cost money, and then all of a sudden they make multi-millions of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
nearly $250 million worldwide. And I realize even if I would have become a millionaire, it still would have been a fraction, because if anyone's going to profit off my story the most, it should be me. I
True.
should be creating my estate. I should pass this down to the children, my grandchildren, and my great grandchildren.
True.
I can't let some company just capitalize off me. So I ended up doing self publishing through Ingham Spark
Okay.
because it allowed me to maintain my rights, create the ebook, hardcover, softcover. Then with ACX and Findaway Voices, I was able to do an independent audiobook for those who are blind who want to listen to a book. Those kids who are learning through reading ebooks, they can tell their mom and dad, "Can you put this on my early Christmas list, birthday list?" And those who are illiterate, not that I'm insulting anybody, it's just those who are, read from right to left, that type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And when they listen to it, they can feel the words, feel the energy, feel the vibe. You can relate to like Ray Charles, the musician, Stevie Wonder, musician, and then one of the best musicians of all times, and he couldn't even listen to music, Beethoven.
Mm-hmm. True.
And when people get a chance to listen to my audiobook, they get to hear it from me directly, not someone hired to do me. Because no one can, there's no acting school for what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
There's no coaching for what I overcame. And there's no game plan on how I can come back from it.
True. True. That's true. So, listening to you talk about your story and you're now inspiring others. And many times today in 2024, we see a lot of young people that have to grow up in single family homes. So, what advice would you give to a young man who's growing up without a father to find a male figure in his life? What would you tell him?
First, you gotta understand the history of it. It was not by design. You gotta go back to before America. Like men were in the home, that was a requirement. You gotta provide, protect, profess for the woman in order to get approval from her parents. But along the way, through the slavery, they were forcing African American men to have, multiple children with multiple women and not see those children ever again for long times. You can look at the movie Roots. But moving forward, it's here in America, you gotta look at the issue of back in the day, they were pushing people of color back around people, particularly men outside the household, by trying to take away trades, force jobs to go overseas, and you making it struggle to where somebody's got to like find other means to provide for their family.
Mhm.
And then you also have to look at the feminist movement where, the government was given two different messages. Oh, we want the European women to go further education and get married. But they were telling the black and brown people, well, we'll give you all these benefits, which is really a fraction of the world's wealth. What they don't tell people is that we control how much you live, how much you eat a month. But the thing is, you cannot have a man live with you or be married.
Mhm.
Problem with that is this: if you have a man in the household working, you don't need the government. You maintain equality, your own belonging, we had to understand that, there was the drug pandemic that was going on where someone will have like maybe a possession of drugs and get sentenced to 10, 20, 30 years for simple possessions. But yet, a European person called the same thing, who got a lawyer, make it a slap on the wrist.
Mhm.
And we fast forward to now, we have to understand that there are good men in the communities. It's just good men are not gonna put up with anybody's stuff. They're not gonna put up with the drama and all that other stuff because they got standards. They
Mhm.
want to come home to a place of peace. Your good men or your coaches, some of your superintendents, your barbers, doctors, local business owners, lawyers, judges. You can look at Judge Mathis. He came from a single parent household. His life changed once he realized he had to stop doing what he was doing in the streets and start taking the books more serious and rededicate his life to his mom.
Mhm.
Even though he had a record on his background, he still got his bachelor's degree
Yeah.
and he fought hard, tooth and nail, to get his to pass the bar exam, practice law, and eventually became a judge. There was people with opposition against it, but eventually someone was willing to vouch for him, put their own credibility and livelihood on the line. You can also look at the story of Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Dr. Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey. You can also look at Barack Obama, who grew up in a single parent household and still became the president of the United States of America. There's many stories to look at. It's just we have to want to do better. In order to want to do better, you have to be around people that are differently, because eventually you grow apart from people.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that to insult nobody. It just happens. Like, for example, everyone may have something in common in the same neighborhood. Like, for back in the day, before segregation, there used to be millionaires living in the ghetto. I repeat, there used to be millionaires living in the ghetto. People making hundred thousands living in the ghetto. But once desegregation happened, things changed. People thought the grass was greener on the side. Moving to a different part of the city or on the outskirts, but what they didn't realize is that they're facing opposition. And they talk about this one movie called A Raisin in the Sun, where this family that was living in the ghetto finally got the money to move to a nicer neighborhood and then feel opposition among the neighbors.
Mhm.
You have to remember a time where they didn't want black and brown people living on the main roads in certain towns or cities so that they don't get low appraisal rates.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying all those stories that mention, you have to know your history in order to understand what's going on presently. Because
Mhm.
again, it's not by design and it's not by accident.
Mhm.
Things are still going on. You have to keep your eyes and ears open instead of listening to rap music about people who want to degrade women and all this other stuff and sell that stuff. You gotta realize certain record companies, they're the big guys, they're working with the government.
Mhm.
And you gotta look at the bigger picture. Why is that Chance the Rapper not being more, how I say this, or getting more exposure on the mainstream media? He want to maintain his independence.
Mhm.
But moving forward, there are mentors and people willing to help you out there. There's so many nonprofit organizations in people's communities. If you don't have one in your community, find another community that has one. Because there's so many 501c nonprofit organizations that provide before school, after school programs. And of course, there's a requirement of having all your background checks for the men, women with criminal, FBI, state. Then there's also the child reporting thing that is called, I forgot what it's called.
With the mandated reporter thing?
Yes, mandated reporting when the person can't be alone with a child unless there's two adults. And if you are, it's got to be an open space.
Hmm.
Uh, but you also have to understand that life happens, life is never easy, and you have to be willing to fight against the grain.
You are truly a fighter. You are truly a fighter. And I'm hearing you talk about you have to constantly educate yourself, constantly get information and knowledge. And in your personal story yourself, you have 2 degrees. What made you or how did it happen that you decided to transition into going to higher education?
Uh, let's see. I'll give you a backstory, then a front story, then a present story. The backstory is that I used to be on an IEP plan because I grew up in a single parent household. And you have to understand, it's the school district's design to get extra state and federal funding
Mm,
from the government to fill in the gaps because they have to pay more money per salary per learning support teacher than they would for a teacher that's teaching in a regular classroom
mm,
because they specialize in something.
okay.
Second, on my IEP plan, it never said anything about me becoming a business owner, self-published author, going to college. The only time I went to college was to volunteer as a dishwasher at Thaddeus Stevens College. That's the only time I visited college. And I did it because the food was much better at the college than it was in high school. And then the moving to the next phase is that no teacher really like invested in me to the point where we gotta get him out of these IEP classes and put him into something else because he had a much greater purpose than everybody in the learning support classes. And we look at it present now, like 3 years ago, or maybe four, actually 3 years ago, catching up with this guy who was my classmate. And it was after the time I got my commencement ceremony done, 2021 Mills University. He said about all the people in our learning support classes, you're the only one who went to college and graduated. And then I have all the people in our regular classes, for whether it be science, history, some math, and then it comes to certain specials. I'm the only person who graduated college and crossed the finish line. And I couldn't believe it because I'm looking at some of the people I grew up with. I thought, hey, they had a better opportunity than me. They had the nice clothes, the sneakers, their car's not breaking down like my mom's car would. They got more food in the refrigerator, the cabinets. They got electronics. They have more opportunities, but I also realize it's what you make of these opportunities. And I always had that hunger. It's just I wasn't in the right situation or right around being around the right people to help me go to the next level and evolve. And eventually I did meet this person named Jordan Steffi, and I gotta give credit to his wife. Her name is Miss Keandra Bear, now Steffi. Me and her went to high school together. She was a cheerleader. When she went to college, she went to Maryland University with Jordan. They graduated different time periods because they studied different majors. And Jordan saw something in me that my parents didn't see in me,
Hmm.
that certain teachers didn't see in me, certain administrators didn't see in me, the people who are showing up to the meetings for the IEP plans. And it goes back to don't be around the person that's looking to wave you off. Be around the person who's willing to open up your eyes, see there's more to life than what you see and
Yes.
experience now. And eventually he took me on tours to Maryland, Temple. There was also Columbia, Princeton. I think I touched that turtle there. And then there's also Penn College, George Washington, Howard, uh, like I said before, and I'll say it again, my journey with college was much different. I didn't go to college right after we went to high school. I went several years right after high school. That is not to discourage anyone, it's just to tell you that it's never too late to further your education.
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody that was in their 60s and 70s that furthered their education because they didn't want to rely on no SSI for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Because they realized they would be making more money working with a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree than they would be selling for SSI.
Yeah.
And, I'll give you a snippet. Like, there was this time period, it was the summer 2001. My health wasn't doing good. I'm skinny down to the bone. I got this feeding tube. My face is sucked in. And I show up at Media Heights Golf Club, and there was supposed to be a special guest speaker to speak at this golfing tournament as part of the fundraising efforts. And for some reason, that person didn't show up. So Jordan, him being a former student athlete in college and high school, he played quarterback, played the guard, whether it be the point guard, shooting guard, or forward. Then in track, he was the big thrower. He shot a call an audible, which is a change the plan. He does this. He calls me up, but I knew he was going to do it before because I saw it in his eye and I saw it in his face. And he said this speech, and then he waited 5 to 10 seconds, and he told everyone, Ethan's going to graduate with a college degree. And the whole room was surprised. And here I am in shambles with my health. And I looked at him like, did he just say that? And I got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is I didn't graduate with 1 degree. The good news is I graduated with 2 degrees.
There you go. There you go.
So
And
I did what more was asked of me or announced.
there you go. And what are the degrees in, sir?
Associates for General Studies at Harrisburg Area Community College. I was honored twice at the Johnson Center. The first time was December 2017, and the second one was most recent, earlier this month, Distinguished Alumni Award.
Awesome.
Yes, and then I was honored and recognized at Mills University at their commencement ceremony. Bachelor's of Science, major speech communication, minor broadcasting and media. I'll probably be a distinguished alumni there in the near future. And then hopefully I become a distinguished alumni of my high school, J.P. McCaskey High School of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Yep, that answers the question.
Oh, so is that for higher education? You going to consider another degree or?
I want to go for my master's. I learned it's best for me to be a grad assistant. That way the tuition is already paid for or waived. So I'm not trying to get into 20,000 in debt when I'm
Mm-hmm.
already not in debt.
True.
It's just you gotta know the game because those GRE tests are not for everybody. Because if you're out of high school for so many years, and for me being much older, I'm not gonna perform as well. And if I'd known better, I wouldn't have took the GRE test. Cause I tried to apply for Penn State Harrisburg, but I didn't get accepted due to the GRE test. But that's a lesson learned, and I still got accepted into other things. Like, for example, this one organization is called C Sweet for Christ. They're going to help me get more speaking engagements around the United States and possibly the world because I got my passport renewed.
There you go.
Yeah, so the expression one door closes, many more open.
True, true. So we're going to be a traveling speaker.
Yes. And I was also recognized at the Pennsylvania State Capitol Complex of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for Award of Excellence by Lancaster City State Rep Ismail Smith Waddell. His mom is the late Dr. Rita Smith-Waddell. She created a single parent household, unfortunately, when her marriage didn't work out, but she didn't let that end all be all. She furthered education to the point where she became a doctorate, a professor at Temple, and then a professor at Mills University. And they got a section of a building on and recognizing her for starting the courses for Black or African American studies.
Okay. All right. You got some awesome credentials that many people that the world expected to succeed do not have. So that's amazing and awesome. That's amazing and awesome. When did the speaking and mental health advocate come before the book or after the book?
After the book, because say that again, please.
Did the public speaking, and the mental health advocate work come before or after the book?
Like, the speaking came before. I make a long story short. I was already doing the spoken word, and then I got invited to Lancaster Country Day to do a poetry workshop, and that's when I knew I could do the speaking engagements from there on out. The mental health advocate came after the book because what some people didn't realize was uh, when I overcame this near death situation, people thought, my life was back together when I started working again, got a driver's license. Well, what people didn't understand is that when you're working with kids or student athletes, parents and guardians, and shall I say aunts and uncles, and of course, grandpa, grandpop, want to research these people because sometimes HR misses out on some things, and they want to research to make sure this person not a person that got red flags.
Mm.
So there were times when people would just come up to me and say, "Is this you from this near death experience?" I said, "Yes." I felt pressure because I wanted to just show up to work just to enjoy what I usually do, working with the student athletes, whether it be football, track, and wrestling. And eventually it became overwhelming. And my boss just said, "Your inspiration, find a way to utilize it." And that's
Mm.
why wanted to change the narrative. So when people do research me, they see more of the positive of forthcoming of me inspiring student athletes with the posters, local leaders, government officials, me having my special moments. Recently was my birthday, almost 200 likes and comments on Facebook,
Awesome.
several comments on Instagram, LinkedIn,
Mm.
TikTok, Snapchat. People like to look at things, but when they see that baby picture of me and my nephew pretty soon, here comes the hearts and women sliding my DMs. But
and and how old did you turn on your last birthday?
I
25?
turned 37.
Oh, you look like a baby. Okay,
Yeah,
37. Okay, cool. Happy belated birthday.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. How the mental health part happened was just people realizing I overcame a lot and I'm still strong. And I talk about my book where I'm going to get my MRI test done. You get to wear your headphones, choose any music you want. I chose jazz, like Nat Cole or Old Train, those type of people. Here's some organic things. So the machine's going and it's going like a drill or construction. Then finally we get done. He uploads everything. He looks at me, looks at the MRI image, and looks at the near-death experience situation, calls in his staff members inside the office of where my appointment is, and he said, "Look at him. Look at the MRI, and look at the near-death experience. He doesn't have PSTD, which stands for post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm.
That's something people suffer from in the line of duty, whether it's how I say this, ambulance, police, fire department, FBI, people who serve in the military, private eyes, or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have PSD, so that's the blessing.
A walking
And
miracle.
yes, so when people start getting wind of that, when I start talking about that in the podcast and in my book, they were like, "What? You don't got PSD? PSD? No, not one bit. What about the medicine you're taking? I got detoxed off today, got my five senses back,
Okay. Full recovery, full recovery,
and some.
and some. So, did I hear you right? You say you write poetry too as well? That's where the poetic comes from?
Yes, it does. It also comes from a history lesson where I took my ancestry DNA test, and I realized I don't like the last name I used to have one is German, but the situation is I didn't have one drop of German DNA in me. Most of the DNA was African, Puerto Rican. There were certain European traits, but some of that comes from the Puerto Rican side, and
Mm-hmm.
some may have came from slavery due to certain behaviors or people going against the grain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I realized why take a last name that doesn't belong to me. Again, I reference to Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. They changed their last names. The difference is they practice the Muslim faith. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I changed it for personal belief because why should I take a last name that don't belong to me to begin with, and my legacy is becoming greater? I
Mm-hmm.
understand my mom gave me her maiden name, and I understand my dad wasn't there at the birth, but at the same time, they were never together seriously. He was already with a whole nother woman and had
Mm-hmm.
my older brother and a whole nother situation. So I already got the blessing from my grandma and changed my last name and legally did it. And it's one of the best decisions I ever made because poetic stands for creative, poetry, spoken word, visionary, you name it. And then I also remember on Facebook a while ago, this person called me Ethan Poetic by just as a joke or a nickname. I'm like, it just stuck. And it's sticking to this present day and moving forward.
Awesome. That's great. It's a nice flow to it. So what are you're ambitious and you're inspirational. What do you want to do moving forward? What are some goals you have to accomplish in the years to come?
I'm ready to create my documentary.
Okay.
It's time for me to tell my story before somebody else does.
True.
I'm gonna own everything I write, do the scripts, the production plan, and then hopefully I could play it inside Mills University and a small movie theater that I could get, money from the ticket sales, and then eventually, hopefully in the future, I can make a movie with a soundtrack, have the right supporting cast, and just only look for a distribution deal with the major movie companies because I'm not looking to sign away my rights and anything like that because this is generational wealth
Mm-hmm.
and it's bigger than just me. It's about all those who invest in me as a child, student athlete, hospital visits, rehab, prayer, worship, and look how much I evolved.
That yeah, you had a village. You had a whole village around you.
And the thing is, I didn't fight against my health, and that's why some people end up failing. So I learned from this one guy. His name is Dr. Vincent Miles Sr. He's a college professor at Thaddeus-Stevens College. And he said some of the reasons why people succeed in dosages, the difference is did you create a pack or did you not?
Oh, okay.
If you're creating a pack at a young age, let's do this into our adulthood. Because somebody messes with one of us, they messing with all of us. When one person falls, we bring you back up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference between a sob story and a success story in life. And what people don't understand is you can't put your trust and livelihood in the hands of government officials, people who serve in council, because when the slaves, African American in particular, got their freedom, their civil rights, left the slave plantation, they had help from the Amish, the Mennonites, the Quakers, and those who didn't want to be using the Bible to manipulate people.
Mm-hmm.
Those who felt a conviction decided to help. And, that caused division among families of the European people. We also have to understand that before America was even America, half the land, actually, all of America was divided in half between Mexico and the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta understand there's a reason why some of them live on the reservation. There's a reason why some of them get approved for loans for casinos, gas stations, supermarkets, or quickie marts. It's all part of their reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for the Mexicans, they didn't get reparations as much because they were forced, but at the same time, they were given a choice to either live in Mexico or be a U.S. citizen. Some left, some stayed. And we have to understand there's a story to tell. There's stories to be known that before America became America, you got to understand
Yeah.
that it's not always about the American dream. It's about the stuff that happened behind the scenes.
Yeah. True, true. And a lot of it is trying to cover up, they want to forget about a lot of the stuff that happened in the past. So well, I want to wrap up and ask you my random question, sir. But before I do that, because I was listening to you say you want to create generational wealth and produce the movie yourself, if you had to pick an actor today in modern times to play you when you're casting for your movie, who would you have play you?
I gotta play me.
Yeah, I love it. Okay.
I'll tell you a quick story. Like my first acting debut was for my cousin in one of her small videos, and I played a dead person, and they put the cover on top of me like a linen, put some food coloring, and this dog started licking it, thinking it was barbecue sauce. Yeah, yeah, that was my acting debut, and I earned Speak to My Soul sweater. But seriously, no one can act the essence of me because I'm the guy who experienced it head on. I know how to put myself mentally in that space. Because again, there's no acting school for what I overcame. As far as supporting actors, I want to have Jamie Foxx. Gotta have Terrence Howard, Taraji B. Henderson.
There you go.
Uh, I like to, have Lee Daniels and Tyler Perry add their visionary works in it because I gotta bring the authenticity into the movie. The doctor, thinking that guy who plays the movie, I forgot his name. Oh man, he plays this doctor in this one television series. One time he liked 20 of my pictures on Instagram.
All right. Okay. So we should see this movie soon then. This should come to be soon.
Well, there's a financial part and there's the
Mm,
politics part. And it's gonna happen because I'm gonna make it happen
there you
because
go.
I got this vision, I got this plan that's so big, most people are not gonna understand unless they're all in.
Hmm.
And it's important for people to understand your rights to your own story because you sell your story, someone's going to make the money 10 to 20 or 100 times over.
Yeah.
Same thing with your music, same thing with your intellectual property, name, image, and likeness. There's billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars around the world. It's time for you to get your slice of the pie and some.
Sure.
because you gotta understand, don't accept the first offer because it's not always the best, and patience is virtue. As far as the reason to ask me, it's just I'm the person who knows certain things I didn't talk about in the book that I can talk about in the movie. But there's also some things I learned more recently through my aunt. For example, I thought, you know, how I say this. Yeah, I was told by my grandma and my aunt, my dad disowned me before he even saw me. What ended up having to believe that he was actually gonna accept me was my aunt came to my mom's house, checked out my hands, feet, and my back, my spine, my ears, my mouth. Mind you, she's older than my dad. She said, these are the same features my brother has when he was a baby. Yep, this is it. And this is before DNA was popular.
Mm.
And that's something I could talk about from hearing those words. Because again, there's people who got pieces to your childhood that could tell you, give you some gems, a ruby, a diamond, a pearl, and much more.
Nobody can tell your story like you can. Awesome. I like it. And I love that you are a stickler about maintaining control of your work. So, I mean, because so many times we see where people give up their rights and then they just, so many times in the entertainment industry where years down the line, they don't have anything and they work so hard to create that and put it out into the world and then they don't have any parts and pieces of it. So I'm glad that you're a stickler about maintaining your rights. So that's good. And we will keep our eye out and be looking for this movie to come out. And so if we've got Terrence Howard and Taraji out there listening, so we got some work for you to do. So let me ask you my random question, sir, and then I'm going to ask you to tell us how we connect with you and keep in touch with you and pick up the book and all of this stuff. Oh, this is an easy one. Should you put your socks on first or your pants?
Mm, I say socks. Like, for example, there's some people who got leg problems, they got to put their socks on first. And then there's some people who do the opposite.
True.
It just depends on what type of mood a person is and if the lights are on. Some people might some people might sleep with the socks on, some people might sleep with the socks off.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's winter season, to layer up. If you know it's hot, well, it's time to open up the windows, start the AC, start the humidifier, and make those cold drinks and popsicle sticks where you put the little sticks inside the cubes, add a little flavor. Like I just got a gem to tell y'all. Like the real juice is not the juice that's sold in stores. The real juice is made with fruits and vegetables inside a juicer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I tell you what, try mixing celery with lemon. You're gonna
Oh,
make yourself celery juice. Yeah. So there's so many recipes online. That's the real juice. And some of this real juice you make can help people who suffer from who have underlying pain. Like some people may need more vitamins, nutrition.
all these health
May not
issues,
may
people.
eat as much. But I do caution if you got acid reflux, well, consult with a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important that we eat stuff in more of its natural state than a lot of this processed stuff that's on the shelves in the store. So good. Well, sir, Mr. Ethan Poetic, how do we pick up the book? How do we connect with you and book you for a speaking gig if we need to? Tell us how we connect with you.
Well, let's see. First, in order to get the hardcover and softcover from me directly, you gotta trust me with your mailing address or PO box. Pay me through Cash App, Venmo, Zelle. I would do PayPal, but they're charging high fees. You just contact me either on my social media or my website, ethanspeaks.com. My social media handles on Facebook, LinkedIn, and my YouTube channel is Ethan Poetic. Then on Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, I am Ethan Poetic 23. Then on Twitter, I am Ethan V 23. And for series speaking engagements, and I talk about paid speaking engagements. And as I say on my website, now give it like a full disclosure, I do not accept pro bono or heavily discounted opportunities due to my high demanding schedule. I know my worth. Serious inquiries only. Please, please, please understand that, I got a story to impact people's lives. I have a story that can change your mindset. I have a story that can have your kid go from bad to good.
Mm-hmm.
So I realize as adults, sometimes we don't listen to our kids. The three gems I'll leave you with is this to help you become a better parent is this. You got to ask yourself and other people, how does your child on an individual levels respond the best? By doing, listening, seeing, all three, or having the right mentor that could be a game breaker and a game changer. And I know school districts that are public receive federal and state funding and federal and state grants. And I speak at colleges, public schools, private schools, academies, special events. I will require a security deposit, and I have my speaker contract agreement ready. That way it's legally binding because I'm not trying to learn a lesson like some people have, or they didn't have their paperwork right in their security deposit. Because you have to reserve that day to have me be there. Because when you got me, you got me. Because I'm gonna speak, I'm gonna stay for the pictures. My books are sold separately since it's a product. And then of course, engage with the community because you can look at a rapper.
Mm-hmm.
How often does he engage with his community besides handing out turkeys?
True, true.
That's seasonal. Community engagement is all year round, like how your heart beats all year round. I also do got an audio book. It's available on Amazon, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Google Play, Apple Store, Libro, all major platforms around the world. Same thing with my book, with the ebook and hardcover. The difference is you buy the hard and soft cover from me, the book will be sent to you much faster than those online because I'm sending it through media mail, and I'm going to take a screenshot of the tracking number. That way, you know where the book is coming to
Sent
you.
out.
And I'm going to autograph it, leave a special message in there, leave my
Okay.
business card in there. Now you got a way to contact me directly.
Okay.
And the ebook is something you can download. Audiobook, similar. And you get to listen to it when you go on these family trips, a trip to work, before you do your workout, after you do your workout, or if you feel like your kid is acting up, have them listen to this 10 to 15 minutes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes capital punishment isn't always the answer.
Mm-mm.
Uh, it's sometimes about restructuring the foundation and understanding we need to do better and show children there's better choices to make. Same thing with adults. We gotta go from victim to victor. Start
Mm-hmm.
healing ourselves. Start addressing things. You know, drinking and smoking may look cool, but it doesn't look good on the inside because I'll let you know in a little gem is this, when you support these drugs on the streets, you're supporting gun violence. There's not a drug dealer out here that ain't packing something.
Mm-hmm.
When you're drinking too much alcohol, you're prone to liver failure and sometimes an increased risk of diabetes because alcohol has alcohol sugars and it's only so much insulin your body's going to produce.
Mm-hmm. True.
So, other than that, your mental health is your best health. Call 411, 211, make a booking to a counselor,
Okay.
therapy, a life coach, a pastor. Either way, you're either gonna have your church religious rights, which are private, or you can have your HIPAA rights, wherever it is. Because you gotta understand this. I'll leave you with this gem: is that as old as the earth is, most problems and adversities and traumas people have already overcame. So the blueprint's already out there in books, audiobooks, testimonies. The difference is, do you want to be a victim or victor? I chose to be a victor.
That's right. That's right. And I'm sure there are so many people that are so proud of you and, just encouraged by you. And I just want to add my little 2 cents into that and say, I'm so proud of you and I'm rooting for you and cheering for you. And just an amazing, amazing story. And one more thing I want to add in, because you mentioned that part of your DNA makeup is Puerto Rico. So hopefully in the future, we will have the book and the audio book translated into Spanish as well, right?
Well, I'm gonna have to talk to a few people about that.
Okay. All
It's
right.
just it's just some of the people in the island of Puerto Rico are bilingual, but at the same time, it's more than just putting it out there in Spanish. It's also the marketing,
Mm-hmm.
because somebody's got to be the spokesperson for me,
Mm.
and
No
that's where
habla
someone's got
español? No habla español?
very little.
Un
I
poquito.
didn't grow up in that culture,
Okay.
and that's a whole nother story why I didn't grow up in that culture. It's just in that situation, it's more about bridging the gap. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, for example, let's say you got a health problem and you feel something wrong, you go to the doctor, or if you feel or hear something wrong with your car, you go to the mechanic or your street mechanic. That's how it is. Those two occupations bridge the gap. Same thing if I would like to create a Spanish version of a book. Somebody else has to type the words in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else has to, how I say this, speak the story in Spanish, and I have to do the copyright myself. No more ISB numbers, barcodes, uh change the lettering. It'd probably go from the title of the book, it'd be a Spanish version much differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
that will take someone, or a group of people to really be hands-on. And because how I'm saying the book in English might be slightly different in Spanish. It's
that's
kind of
true.
like in the Bible, there's many different versions. The original versions of the Quran, the Latin versions, then there's the Greek, then there's the Jewish versions. And also you look at the Muslim versions, and you also got the Mandarin versions. Things get interpreted differently.
True.
And yeah, that's why I leave it off at.
Yeah, you don't want that. All right. Well, sir, I have enjoyed our time together today, and you are such an inspiration to everybody. Everybody needs to hear your story, so I encourage everybody to pick up the book, and I encourage folks to go to his website and possibly book for him to come and see you and speak, because I know that you will be impacted by it. And with that, sir, I wish you nothing but the best in your journey moving forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing some more big things coming from you. Okay.
There is.
That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.